So I have made a decision in the past few minutes. I think that they are not teaching critical thinking skills in journalism school anymore. And I also think that journalism students should not be allowed to write stories on economics because it makes them look like fools. Wall Street Journal has a 5-page article today that starts off this way. Families go deeply into debt to stay in the middle class. In order to maintain the middle class, the American middle class is falling deeper into debt to maintain a middle class lifestyle. Cars, college, houses, medical care have become steadily more costly, but incomes have been largely stagnant for 2 decades. Now, and then they go on for the next 5 pages of this article, explaining how car debt is at a record, credit card debt is at a record, student loan debt is at a record, all things we knew, and that middle class wages are stagnant. And so the wealth gap, the wealthy are getting wealthier, the poor middle class is being eaten alive, and you all are all a victim of evil capitalism, and the socialists are going to come and rescue you with a plan that has never worked in any country in the history of the world. And that's the premise of this bull crap. And I can't believe this is in the freaking Wall Street Journal. Okay? Yes, middle class wages by and large are stagnant. But let me tell you what's happened to the middle class while I've been alive. I grew up in middle class. Suburban Nashville. Middle class. In 1960, I grew up in a house that was 1,000 square feet, and we finished out part of the basement, made it 1,300 feet, which is actually the median square footage of a house in 1960 in the United States. You know what the median square footage of the middle class house right now is in the United States? 2,600. Middle class ain't what it used to be. The house has doubled. Our cars, we had one car. We had 240 air conditioning. You rolled down both 2 windows and drove 40 miles an hour. We didn't have DVD players, and only rich people had cars with electric windows. We cranked ours down by our own little butt. Used our little muscles to do that. They weren't that reliable. They weren't that great. They wouldn't park themselves, and none of the doors opened automatically, and there were no holes in the roof except ones we didn't want. If you had a convertible or an electric window in 1960 on your car, you were a rich person, not a middle-class person. Now, if you don't have a moonroof, an automatic door, a GPS, and an auto parking, and the freaking thing drives for you because, God forbid, your 2 children should have to sit together in a seat, and you call that middle class. Oh, if you went to college in the 1960s, you went to an in-state school or a community school, you lived at home, and you worked your little butt off to pay for it. And if you graduated in 4 years and got a 4-year degree, you were a big deal. Nowadays, you have to go to a school that's prestigious, and you have to stay 18 years and get a graduate degree to call yourself middle class, and pay 16 times more for it to call yourself middle class. When we went on vacation when I was a kid, we got in a 13-foot boat with a 35-horse Johnson on it, drove over to the island with a lawnmower, mowed out a place, and went tent camping. And water skiing consisted of a lot of dragging and a little bit of skiing. Now, if you want to go out on the lake, it takes a $110,000 wakeboard boat because you have to surf behind the boat. And there ain't no camping involved unless it's in an RV that cost $100,000 in the middle class America of today. When Sharon and I got married in 1982, we put our little butts in the car. We drove from Tennessee to Key Largo and stayed in the Holiday Inn, and we thought we were big time because all of our friends, when they got married, went to Gatlinburg, and we went to Florida. When I was a kid growing up, I never saw the ocean until I was 14 years old. I must have been abused as a child. I don't know how we middle-class people made it. The things that you people all call middle class today, we called rich when we were in the middle class of the 1960s and 1970s. If you wanted to make a phone call, You put your finger in a thing and turned it around, a rotary phone, and it was connected to the wall, and you never called long distance because it costs more. Now, if you can't FaceTime someone in China, you're pissed off in your hand. And you call that middle class. If you wanted to turn on the television, it was free. And you spun the rabbit ears around, and the channel changer was my dad telling me to get up and change the channel. And there were 3 channels. It wasn't a $200 a month with the NFL package, the Golf Channel package, the SEC package. Oh, and you got to have Netflix for another 10 or 20 bucks. Oh, and you got to have Apple TV. This is middle class. You know, when we went to a restaurant on special occasions, you freaking middle class people today eat out every night, and if you can't, you whine like a 13-year-old girl at the lunch table in middle school. And you call that middle class. Your wages might be stagnant, but let me tell you what's not stagnant. Your freaking consumption. You are consuming your butts off, America, and don't blame it on capitalism. Blame it on your immaturity and your impulsiveness. And don't you dare say that the wealthy are getting wealthier on your backs. You're living like you're rich, and you're not. It's your fault. Oh, you're shaming. Yes, I'm shaming. That's what you call that. It's calling stupid, stupid. This is critical thinking skills. It's not a stagnant income that's a problem. It's an exponential increase in consumption instead of production. Get up, leave the cave, and make more than you spend, and try not calling all of these luxury items that were reserved for the richest of the rich only 2 decades ago. Please don't call those middle class and that you are somehow entitled to them because you woke up and breathed American air this morning. Absolutely asinine. You cannot eat out every night, have cable TV packages, have a phone that does what your phone does, fly to the Dominican Republic on your honeymoon, and have an all-inclusive adventure at the beach. You cannot vacation instead of a tent in Europe and all over cruising all over the world. You cannot have a private school with a graduate degree, 2 cars that will dance a jig, and live in a house twice the size as I grew up in and call yourself middle class, and somehow you've been messed over by America. What a bunch of crap.